Let's talk about what happens, because we worked on a case recently together, very well-known case involving the city of Detroit. And I think there's a lot of lessons to discuss on this case. First of all, it's a case gone wild. Okay, this guy's walking across the street in Detroit. He's literally walking in a crosswalk across the street. He looks over to his right, and there's a massive tire bouncing down the road that had come off a City of Detroit Department of Transportation van, and it blasted this dude and caused massive injuries, okay? And I get the case, and it is the guy's severely injured to the point where he has massive brain damage. I think the doctor said a third of his brain was destroyed by this tire smashing his skull into the pavement. And the guy, I immediately see that he's not able to take care of himself. He's not able to function, and he needs help. So you became what's called the conservator for this individual. What is a conservator, just in a nutshell?
Sure. It's a legal representative, a fiduciary, we say, meaning I am now obligated. I stand in the fiduciary responsibility to ensure that all of his legal and economic or financial matters are taken care of.
Even though he's alive. Because this guy's alive.
That's right.
But he's severely injured and really not able to take care of himself.
Right. It's kind of like a guardianship over their money. So I became in charge of their legal matter. And remember, as you know, it was on the eve of trial. You are about to have this very important trial in court, and you didn't have a person who was going to be able to capably manage his way through the trial.
Right. Or money. Right? Because in this case, the jury ended up giving a verdict of over $10 million. You can't just, you can't just go, I can't ethically go to a client who can't even care for himself and say, here's $10 million check on your lawsuit. It wouldn't even make it into the bank.
That's right. And even for the jury's perspective, imagine a juror thinking, should I award a large verdict to an individual who is having a really difficult life, even though he was catastrophically injured? His life is not in good shape. What is going to be used with this money? Is it going to be productive?
Juries always want to know where the money's going to go. That's why it's really hard. If I might have a client who has the best case in the world from a plaintiff's perspective, like they're seriously hurt, they deserve compensation, but they're maybe a drug addict. And even though jurors feel bad, juries don't want to give millions of dollars to a person that they think is going to go out to the corner and use it to buy heroin or something.
Absolutely. And John, I think that the strategy of utilizing a professional conservator like myself in that trial was a wise move. And as you described, a wild case.
Wild case.
Wild. The idea that somebody is going to be walking down the street and get bulldozed by a tire and wheel that wasn't placed correctly on the vehicle by the city of Detroit. But the brilliance in this strategy was that the jurors were willing to award a large sum of money because they knew that with the professional conservator, those assets were going to be protected for his benefit and utilized to enhance and improve this person's life for the remainder of their life.
So let's talk about how this worked, because this was very wild. So we had a trial. The plaintiff who got hit by the tire was so severely injured and brain damaged, he couldn't even participate in the trial, which puts me in a horrible position because my client isn't even at the trial.
Right.
My client's so hurt, he can't even appear at the trial. You testified. So tell our listeners how that works. I mean, I literally called you, Darren Findling, to the stand kind of as my client who got hit by the tire.
It's exactly right. And I was able to convey to the jury that in the event that this jury found that the city of Detroit was liable for the actions, which they clearly were, we knew they were, that the monies that they were going to award were going to be safeguarded. They were going to be protected. And I implored the jury to award a large sum of money to ensure that this individual, who has suffered greatly, horrifically, nobody could ever be compensated appropriately for the damages that have incurred, that those monies were going to be utilized to enhance and improve his life.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit about this guy had kind of a hard life.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't have any siblings, Darren. So his parents were dead. He had like an estranged sister, I believe, who was in Japan, who he hadn't talked to in like 20 years. When he dies, what happens to the money?
Yeah. So we also did some planning with him. We were able to create an estate plan to ensure that, when I say estate plan, a will, to ensure that upon his death, he would direct where that money was going to go.
From the case,
That's right. And in this particular case, he wanted to make sure that it went to veterans, to causes for abuse, alcoholism, drug abuse, to ensure that those people who are suffering from this horrible illness were going to benefit from these funds. And that also, I believe, played heavily on the jury. The jury heard that in the event that he dies, that those monies were not going to just be wasted. They were going to go to a good use through a not-for-profit organization to help others.
Yeah. And